the Arabian Horse, and the Lost Princess. In the golden dunes of an ancient desert kingdom, where the sun painted the skies in fiery hues, there lived a magnificent Arabian horse named Zafir. He was unlike any other. His coat gleamed like liquid silver under the moon, and his hooves barely touched the sand as he galloped through the endless dunes. Legends whispered that he was born of the desert wind, swift and untamed. One fateful night, as Zafir roamed near the oasis, he heard a faint cry carried by the wind. Following the sound, he found a young girl dressed in torn silk and veils. Her deep hazel eyes held a fire of defiance, despite the dust and exhaustion marking her delicate face. She was Princess Layla, the rightful heir to the kingdom of Al-Zahra, who had been betrayed by her own uncle. The cruel vizier had seized the throne and ordered her banished into the unforgiving desert, believing she would never survive. But fate had other plans. Zafir, sensing her noble spirit, lowered his head, allowing her to climb onto his back. As soon as she grasped his mane, he took off like a shooting star, gliding over the sands as if the desert itself guided his path. Layla held on tight, feeling a strange connection to the horse, as if he understood her pain, her determination, her destiny. For days they traveled together. Zafir led her to hidden wells and shaded valleys, ensuring she never succumbed to the desert's wrath. Along the journey, Layla discovered a truth long forgotten. Her mother's family, warriors of the desert, still lived beyond the dunes. They had sworn loyalty to her bloodline, but had been exiled years ago. With Zafir as her guardian, Layla found the hidden tribe, and upon seeing her, the warriors pledged their swords to her cause. Under the moonlit sky, she raised her mother's dagger, a symbol of her lineage, and vowed to reclaim her kingdom. The day of reckoning came swiftly. Riding upon Zafir, her golden armor shimmering, Layla led the charge against her uncle's forces. Zafir's hooves thundered like a desert storm, striking fear into the hearts of those who had betrayed her. The battle was fierce, but with her army of desert warriors, she overthrew the vizier and took back her rightful throne. As the kingdom rejoiced, Layla made a decree. Zafir would never be ridden by another. He would roam freely as the guardian of Al-Zahra, forever a legend in the land of the golden sands. And so, the princess and the Arabian horse became a tale whispered by campfires, a story of courage, destiny, and an unbreakable bond forged in the heart of the desert. With the kingdom of Al-Zahra restored, Princess Layla ruled with wisdom, justice, and the fierce spirit of the desert. Yet, even in victory, her heart remained tethered to the wild dunes, where she had found her strength, and her most loyal companion, Zafir. Though she had decreed that Zafir would never be ridden again, she often wandered to the royal stables where he stood, his silver coat gleaming under the golden sun. She would run her fingers through his mane and whisper to him of her dreams, her worries, and the burdens of the crown. Zafir, with eyes as deep as the night sky, listened as if he understood every word. One evening, a mysterious old woman arrived at the palace gates. Dressed in flowing robes woven with silver threads, she carried an air of ancient knowledge. "Your Highness," she spoke in a voice like the shifting sands, "you and the horse are bound by fate, but your journey is not yet complete." Layla was taken aback. "I have won my kingdom back. What more is there to do?" The old woman extended her hand, revealing an amulet of glowing sapphire, marked with an ancient inscription. "There is a darkness beyond the dunes, in the forgotten lands of Qadm. A sorcerer once exiled, seeks to enslave the spirits of the desert, including Zafir. His power grows, and if left unchecked, he will summon a storm that will consume all of Al-Zahra. Layla's heart clenched at the thought of Zafir in chains, his free spirit crushed by dark magic. "Tell me where to find this sorcerer," she said, determination flashing in her eyes. But the old woman only smiled. "Zafir already knows the way." That night, as the moon cast its silver glow over the desert, Layla approached Zafir once more. He pawed the ground, as if sensing the danger ahead. She hesitated only for a moment before swinging herself onto his back, breaking her own decree. Zafir reared up and took off into the night, faster than the wind itself. The kingdom of Al-Zahra faded behind them as they raced toward the forbidden lands, where ancient magic stirred in the sands and danger lurked in every shadow. As the first hints of dawn painted the sky, Layla and Zafir reached the cursed ruins of Qadim. The air was thick with enchantments, the ground cracked with glowing veins of unnatural energy. And at the heart of it all stood the sorcerer, cloaked in black, his hands raised toward the heavens, chanting in an unknown tongue. Layla tightened her grip on Zafir's mane. This battle would not be fought with swords alone. It would take courage, wisdom, and the unbreakable bond between a princess and her horse. With a final whisper to Zafir, she prepared for the fight of her life. As Zafir galloped into the ruins of Qadim, Layla felt a wave of dark energy coil around them, like invisible hands trying to hold them back. The sorcerer, his eyes glowing like molten gold, smirked as he raised his staff, sending black tendrils of magic toward them. "Foolish princess," he sneered. "You think you and your horse can stand against me?" But Layla knew she was not alone. She leaned close to Zafir's ear and whispered, "Trust me, as I trust you." Zafir reared up, his silver mane glowing under the rising sun. In a single leap, he dodged the sorcerer's dark magic, landing gracefully on the cracked earth. The amulet in Layla's hand began to pulse, responding to Zafir's strength. "You were exiled for a reason, sorcerer," Layla called, her voice unwavering. "Your dark magic has no place in this land." The sorcerer laughed, his voice echoing through the ruins. "This desert is mine to control, and soon your horse will bow before me." With a flick of his wrist, the sands beneath them shifted violently, rising into a massive vortex, trying to swallow them whole. But Zafir was the spirit of the desert itself. He leaped high, his hooves barely touching the swirling sands, as if he were riding the wind. Layla, gripping the glowing amulet, felt its power surge through her veins. A vision flashed before her. She saw the history of Qadim, once a thriving city, before the sorcerer's greed consumed it. The spirits of the desert had been enslaved, bound to his will, but one remained free, Zafir, the last guardian of the desert winds. "This is why you wanted him," Layla realized aloud. "Zafir is the key to your ultimate power." The sorcerer's smirk faltered, his fingers twitching in frustration. "Yes, and now he will be mine." He struck the ground with his staff, sending chains of dark energy flying toward Zafir. But the great stallion stood his ground, his silver coat glowing brighter as Layla lifted the amulet high. The chains shattered before they could touch him. The amulet's glow exploded outward, sending a shock wave through the ruins. The trapped spirits cried out in joy, their bonds breaking, their whispers joining the desert winds once more. The sorcerer screamed as the magic he had stolen turned against him. The ruins of Qadim trembled, and with one final surge, the desert itself swallowed him whole, burying his darkness beneath the sands forever. Silence fell. The winds, now free, danced around Layla and Zafir in gratitude. Layla, breathing heavily, turned to her loyal companion. "We did it!" Zafir nickered softly, pressing his forehead against hers. The desert had tested them, but their bond had proven stronger than any darkness. As they rode back to Al-Zahra, the sun rose behind them, painting the sky in hues of gold and fire. The princess and the legendary Arabian horse were no longer just a tale whispered in the dunes. They were the guardians of the desert spirit, bound by destiny forever. As Princess Layla and Zafir rode back to Al-Zahra, the desert wind carried an eerie whisper through the dunes. The battle against the sorcerer was over, but something in Layla's heart told her the story was not yet finished. The sun hung low when they reached the city gates. The people of Al-Zahra rushed to greet their princess, their cheers filling the air. But Layla's mind was elsewhere. Her fingers traced the now dormant amulet. Its glow faded. Something had changed in the desert. That night, as Layla stood on the palace balcony overlooking the endless sands, Zafir let out a low, haunting neigh. His ears pricked toward the dunes, his muscles tensed. Layla's breath hitched. He senses something. Without hesitation, she mounted him once more, ignoring the royal guards who called after her. Zafir took off, his hooves carrying her deep into the silent desert. The golden dunes stretched endlessly, bathed in moonlight, yet an unseen force pulled them forward. Hours passed. Just as Layla began to wonder if she was chasing shadows, Zafir suddenly halted at the edge of a deep, hidden canyon. The wind howled through the cliffs, and in the distance, a faint glow flickered like a dying star. Layla dismounted and stepped carefully toward the light. As she descended into the canyon, she saw something that made her heart stop. A massive stone door, carved with the same symbols as the amulet. The markings seemed to pulse, as if responding to her presence. With trembling fingers, Layla lifted the amulet, pressing it against the stone. A deep rumble shook the canyon. The door split open, revealing a hidden chamber bathed in a soft golden light. Inside, walls of ancient hieroglyphs told a forgotten story. A story of the first Arabian horses, bred not by men, but by the desert gods themselves. Layla's gaze fell upon the center of the chamber, where a large stone tablet stood. The inscription, though worn with age, was still legible. "He who rides with the wind shall unlock the gates of the lost kingdom." Her breath caught. The lost kingdom, a realm spoken of only in legends, a place said to hold the purest of all Arabian horses, untouched by time. Zafir let out a powerful snort, his hooves shifting uneasily. Layla turned to him, realization dawning in her eyes. This was not the end of their journey. This was only the beginning. Layla's fingers traced the ancient inscription, her heart pounding. The lost kingdom was real, a place where the purest Arabian horses still roamed, untouched by man, protected by the desert itself. She turned to Zafir, whose silver coat gleamed in the golden light of the chamber. He had led her here, sensing something she could not. But what did it mean? Before she could process, the ground beneath her shifted. The chamber trembled, and a sudden gust of wind rushed past her, carrying a voice, soft yet powerful. "Only those who ride with the wind may enter." Layla gasped as the stone walls behind her began to close. The chamber was sealing itself. With no time to hesitate, she leaped onto Zafir's back. "Go, Zephyr," she urged. Without a second thought, Zephyr reared up and charged forward. The moment his hooves hit the glowing symbols on the stone floor, the world blurred around them. The passage through the wind. Layla clung to Zephyr as an invisible force pulled them forward. The desert around them shifted and twisted, the dunes blurring into streaks of gold and silver. It felt as if they were galloping through time itself. The wind howled, whispering stories of forgotten warriors, of kings who once rode with the desert gods, of a great betrayal that had hidden the lost kingdom away. And then, silence. The arrival at the lost kingdom. When Layla opened her eyes, she gasped. Before her stretched a valley unlike anything she had ever seen. Towering cliffs of white sandstone, rivers that shimmered like liquid sapphire, and endless golden plains where horses roamed freely. Not just any horses. Arabian horses of impossible beauty, their coats glistening in the sunlight, black as midnight, white as moonlight, golden like the sun. They ran with no reins, no saddles, no masters. Zephyr let out a powerful neigh, and the horses turned to look at them. They knew him. A tall figure emerged from the cliffs, cloaked in flowing desert robes. A woman, her hair streaked with silver, her eyes the color of the setting sun. "We have waited for you, Princess Layla," she said, her voice like a song carried by the wind. Layla's breath hitched. "Who are you?" The woman smiled. "I am the last guardian of the Alam al-Ri, the dream horses of the wind. And your arrival means the prophecy is coming true." Layla felt Zephyr shift beneath her, as if he too understood the weight of those words. "What prophecy?" Layla asked. The woman gestured toward the valley. "The one that says a rider will come, one who is truly of the desert, to unite the lost kingdom with the world once more, to restore the balance that was broken centuries ago." Layla's heart pounded. She had spent her life fighting to reclaim her throne, but now she realized her destiny was much greater than a kingdom of men. She had found the lost kingdom. But could she bring it back? And more importantly, was she ready? Layla's heart pounded as she gazed at the breathtaking valley of the Alam al-Ri, the dream horses of the wind. Their coats shimmered under the desert sun, their eyes filled with an ancient wisdom beyond human understanding. The mysterious woman stepped forward, her desert robes flowing like the shifting sands. "You have come, as foretold. But the question remains, are you ready to fulfill the prophecy?" Layla exchanged a glance with Zephyr, his silver mane rippling like a storm's edge. She had fought to reclaim Al-Zahra, defeated a sorcerer, and uncovered a hidden kingdom. But this felt different. This was destiny calling. Taking a steadying breath, she asked, "What must I do?" The woman gestured toward a great stone archway at the far end of the valley. It was adorned with the same markings as the amulet that had led Layla here. "For centuries, the lost kingdom has been sealed away by the curse of man's greed," the woman explained. "The last time an outsider entered this sacred valley, they sought to control the dream horses, to use their power for war. In their arrogance, they shattered the balance between man and nature." Layla frowned. "But I do not seek to control them. I only want to restore what was lost." The woman's golden eyes gleamed. "Then you must prove it." The trial of the wind. Layla felt the desert breeze shift, growing stronger, carrying whispers in a language she could not understand. The ground beneath her trembled as the archway began to glow, its markings pulsing with energy. "The spirits of the desert will test you," the woman said. "If your heart is true, the path to restoring the kingdom will be revealed. But if you fail, the lost kingdom will remain hidden for eternity." Layla tightened her grip on Zafir's mane. "We're ready." A sudden gust of wind howled through the valley, kicking up golden sand and forming a swirling vortex in front of them. From within the storm emerged three massive figures, phantom horses, their bodies made of pure wind and light. Their eyes glowed like stars, their hooves never touching the ground. Layla instinctively knew they were the guardians of the lost kingdom. The tallest among them stepped forward, his voice deep as rolling thunder. "To restore what was lost, you must ride with the wind, not against it. You must let go of all doubt and trust in the desert's will. Only then will the gates open." Layla swallowed hard. She had ridden through storms, battled enemies, and survived the sorcerer's magic. But this was something different. This was a test of faith, riding with the wind. Layla exhaled slowly, her heart steadying. She bent low over Zafir's neck and whispered, "Take us forward. I trust you." Zafir snorted, his muscles tensing. Then, in a burst of speed, he galloped straight toward the storm. The phantom horses neighed in challenge, their forms shifting with the wind. The moment Zafir entered the vortex, everything vanished. Layla found herself surrounded by nothing but sky and wind, as if she had left the earth behind. She could no longer see the valley, the archway, or even the ground. It felt as though she was falling through the heavens, yet Zafir was still beneath her, his powerful heart beating in rhythm with her own. Then she understood. The test was not about speed, not about control. It was about letting go. Closing her eyes, Layla released the tension in her body. She let the wind carry her, allowed the desert to guide her instead of fighting against it. And suddenly, she felt weightless. When she opened her eyes, she and Zafir were no longer alone. The phantom horses ran beside them, no longer challengers, but companions. The wind no longer fought her, but carried her forward. She had become one with the desert, one with the storm. The spirits neighed in approval. The gate opens. A blinding flash of light filled the air. Layla gasped as she and Zafir emerged from the storm, back in the valley. The phantom horses had vanished, but their presence still lingered in the air. Before them, the ancient stone archway began to crack and shift. The glowing symbols merged together, forming a single rune, the mark of the wind. With a final thunderous tremor, the gates to the lost kingdom opened. Layla stared in awe as a magnificent city of marble and gold appeared beyond the archway. Towers of white stone, waterfalls cascading down cliffs, and Arabian horses running free through emerald fields. The lost kingdom of legend was real. She had done it. She had unlocked the lost kingdom. The woman, now standing beside her, smiled. "You have proven yourself, Princess Layla. The dream horses are yours to protect." Layla turned to Zafir, running her hand along his sleek coat. "Not mine to rule," she corrected, "but mine to honor." And so, as the sun rose over the desert, the lost kingdom returned to the world not as a place of power, but as a sanctuary, a place where horses ran free, untouched by greed. And Princess Layla, riding beside Zafir, became its eternal guardian.
The lost kingdom of the Alam al-Rih had returned to the world, its ancient gates finally open after centuries of isolation. Layla stood at the entrance, her heart filled with awe as the city of marble and gold stretched before her. Waterfalls cascaded down limestone cliffs, feeding into crystal-clear pools where wild Arabian horses drank freely. The air hummed with an energy unlike anything she had ever felt, pure, untainted, and ancient.
Zafir let out a proud neigh, his silver coat gleaming under the golden sun. He was home. Layla turned to the mysterious guardian woman, who watched her with knowing eyes. "The kingdom has returned," Layla said. "But what happens now?" The woman stepped forward, tracing her fingers over the glowing runes on the archway. "Now, it must be protected," she said. "You have unlocked the gates, but there are those in the world who will seek to control what they do not understand." Layla's stomach tightened. She had fought wars, battled sorcerers, and defied fate to reclaim her kingdom. But this was different. The Lost Kingdom was a sanctuary, a place where the desert spirits still whispered through the wind. If word of its existence spread, greedy warlords and corrupt rulers would stop at nothing to claim its power. Zafir nudged her shoulder, as if sensing her thoughts. Layla ran a hand through his mane, a new determination settling in her heart. "I will protect it," she vowed, "no matter what it takes." The guardian smiled. "Then you must become more than a queen. You must become a guardian." The oath of the desert. That night, beneath a sky filled with 1,000 stars, Layla stood before the Council of Elders, the last remnants of the kingdom's forgotten rulers. They had lived in exile, waiting for the one who would return their home to them. A golden fire burned at the center of the gathering, its flames shifting like a living entity. The eldest among them, a man with a beard as white as desert salt, held out a ceremonial dagger carved from the bones of an ancient stallion. "Layla bint al-Zahra," he intoned, "you have restored the kingdom, but will you swear to defend it, not as a ruler, but as its eternal guardian?" Layla took the dagger and pressed the blade lightly against her palm. "I swear it," she said, "by the wind, by the sand, and by the spirit of the desert. I will protect this land, its people, and its horses, until the stars themselves burn out." The flames flared brighter, as if the desert itself had accepted her vow. From that moment on, Layla was no longer just a princess. She was the guardian queen of the Lost Kingdom. A new threat rises. For weeks, Layla and the elders worked to rebuild the kingdom, ensuring its return would not be discovered by outsiders. The Alam al-Ri ran freely through the plains, untouched by saddles or reins, their spirits forever bound to the desert winds. But peace would not last forever. One evening, as Layla stood atop the highest tower of the Ivory Palace, Zafir let out a warning cry. Layla's eyes darted toward the horizon, where the dunes rippled in the fading light. A dark army approached. Dust rose like a storm as hundreds of riders on horseback advanced toward the kingdom's gates. Their banners bore the mark of the Black Warlord, a ruthless conqueror who had spent years pillaging the desert in search of power. Layla clenched her fists. Somehow, he had learned of the Lost Kingdom. Behind her, the elders gathered, their faces grave. "He will not stop until he claims the kingdom for himself," one said. "What shall we do, Guardian Queen?" Layla looked at Zafir, her trusted companion. His muscles tensed, his eyes burning with the same fire that had carried them through every battle. She mounted him, drawing the dagger of the oath from her belt. "We fight," she declared, "for the kingdom, for the desert, for the dream horses." With a war cry, she led her warriors forward. The legend of the Guardian Queen and her Arabian steed about to be written into history once more.